Rachel, darling, I have a wonderful surprise. Megan is your new maid of honor.
The room froze. Catherine's hands stilled on the ribbon she had been smoothing.
Rachel's voice barely made it past her throat. Excuse me?
Linda gestured toward the doorway, where Megan stood with a practiced, sugary smile.
Catherine can just be a regular bridesmaid this time. It's the mature thing to do.
Catherine's face went pale as she turned to Rachel, searching for a lifeline that wasn't there.
Mom, Catherine is my best friend. You can't just walk in here and replace her.
I can, and I have. Megan's mother and I already agreed. It's a done deal.
Catherine's voice shook. So, I am just supposed to step aside?
Rachel stood frozen, the weight of the betrayal pressing down on her, while Megan's smirk settled into something victorious.
No, Mom. Catherine is my maid of honor. She stands with me, and that decision is final.
If you embarrass me in front of Megan's family, I will not walk into that church. Think carefully, Rachel.
Then don't come. I'd rather have an empty seat than have you control my wedding.
For a split second, Linda's composure cracked. The control she'd wielded for decades suddenly felt slippery. Thomas paused in the doorway, his work jacket still on, reading the room with that quiet way he had of assessing danger.
And you'd choose this electrician over your own mother that says enough.
I am not going anywhere, and neither is Catherine. We're this wedding's real family.
You've made your position clear, Mom. Now, please leave.
You'll remember this when you are alone.
The door closed. Catherine's hand found Rachel's, wordless and warm. The room felt like it had been holding its breath.
Should I step down? I don't want to be the reason your mother isn't at your wedding.
You are not the reason. She made her choice the moment she brought Megan here.
Catherine's eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. She had spent years being the quiet friend, never the cause of drama. Thomas moved behind Rachel, his presence steady, and she leaned back almost imperceptibly.
We do this our way. The people who matter are in this room.
But what about the rehearsal? The program? Everything's set for a maid of honor.
Then we change it. Mom doesn't get to rewrite my life.
They stood in the quiet, deciding this was the real rehearsal, the one where they chose each other. Thomas wrapped his arms around Rachel, and Catherine placed a hand on her back. No more words were needed. The rehearsal would go on, with Catherine beside her, and Linda's chair empty. That night, Rachel sat alone in her apartment, the rehearsal still echoing. Her wedding dress hung by the window, untouched and silent. Her phone lit up with her father's name. She answered after 2 rings, bracing herself.
Rachel, sweetheart, your mother won't budge, she says. If I go to the wedding, I am choosing against her.
And if you don't come, you are choosing against me. What do you actually want, Dad?
I just want to stop hurting everyone. Is that so wrong?
You can't do that by hiding. I won't be the cost of your peace.
Please don't make me say it. You are my daughter, but she's been my wife for 30 years.
I am not making you do anything. The door is open. That's all I can give you.
The silence on the line stretched thin. Rachel's hand tightened, knuckles pale. She ended the call before he could fill the quiet with empty promises. Across the room, her wedding dress waited like a question she couldn't answer alone. The wedding venue stood bathed in morning sun, but the hush inside felt more like waiting than celebration. In the front row, a reserved chair for Linda remained pointedly empty, its vacant cushion a message no one could ignore. Then the side door opened. David stepped inside, tie crooked, eyes scanning until they found Rachel. He looked afraid.
I got lost on the drive. Not the roads, just got lost. But I am here, sweetheart.
Rachel crossed the room and hugged him. Hard. No words, just the solid reality of her father, defying every ugly expectation.
Catherine appeared in the doorway, already in her bridesmaid dress. She held a small box of pins. You'd think they'd make veils stay put on their own.
She deftly adjusted Rachel's veil, her fingers calm and practiced, Two women who had chosen each other, now standing where it mattered most.
She turned to David, voice steady for the first time all morning. You can sit in the front, not her seat, your seat.
Thomas waited at the altar, catching Rachel's eye through the gap in the doors. He gave her a small, unbreakable nod. The pianist began. Voices hushed. Rachel straightened her shoulders. Whatever happened next, she was walking toward the right kind of family. The doors opened. David's arm tensed under Rachel's hand as they began the slow walk. Every step felt like a small, costly victory.
David whispered, barely audible over the music. I should have done harder things sooner.
At the altar, Thomas's eyes glistened. He wasn't a man who cried easily, but watching Rachel approach without her mother, with only the people who truly cared, it broke something open. Rachel reached the altar, and David lifted her veil with trembling fingers. The gesture was old, traditional, but for a moment, it meant a father finally choosing his daughter.
Rachel, I promise to build a life with you, not the one others imagine, but the one we choose with the people we trust.
And I promise you the same. Our family, the one in this room, is the one that counts.
Catherine stepped forward, the ring box steady in her hand. She opened it, and the band caught a sliver of afternoon light. They exchanged rings. They didn't rush. Each movement was deliberate, a quiet rebuttal to every doubt that had been thrown at them. And when the officiant pronounced them married, Rachel didn't look at the empty chair. She looked at Thomas, at Catherine, at her father, and finally smiled. They walked back up the aisle as husband and wife. The applause was real, but underneath it, the weight of Linda's absence remained, unspoken, but not forgotten. The reception tent buzzed with polite chatter, but beneath the clinking glasses, unspoken questions swirled. A woman near the cake muttered, just loud enough for Rachel to hear. An electrician, of all things. Rachel's spine stiffened. She kept her smile, but her eyes searched for the source. Another guest leaned toward a cluster of ladies. Linda always wanted better for her, you know.
Catherine stepped in, voice pleasant but edged. Actually, Rachel and Thomas are exactly where they're meant to be.
The woman blinked, then turned away. Rachel's smile wobbled for just a second.
Thomas took Rachel's hand for their first dance. Stay with me, he whispered. The rest is noise.
Rachel leaned close. It's not noise. This goes deeper than a book club, and I need to know why.
Across the floor, Catherine caught Rachel's eye, and that silent glance promised a conversation later. The dance continued, but the seed of doubt had been planted, and Rachel's mind was already turning. Hours later, the reception was a memory. Rachel sat on the edge of the hotel bed, still in her dress, fingers restless.
What's eating at you? You've been somewhere else since the first dance.
I can't shake it. Mom didn't pull that stunt just for a friend. It felt too calculated.
She reached for her phone. Thomas didn't stop her. Catherine picked up on the first ring.
I was just thinking about you. Those whispers at the reception, they all circled around the same thing.
Tell me, what did you really hear?
A month ago, at a fitting, your mom said. She said she didn't understand why you were settling for someone who wires houses.
Rachel's jaw tightened. That wasn't disappointment. It was class contempt, worn openly for months.
That's not about a book club. She wanted this wedding to fall apart.
Catherine's silence confirmed it. Rachel ended the call with a single, steady breath. Now she needed the full truth. Rachel didn't call ahead. She drove to her father's house while the streetlights flickered on. Too late for politeness.
Rachel? It's late. Is everything okay?
Number. It's not okay. I need to know what Mom really wanted from the wedding.
She wanted what she always wants. Control. But this time it was different.
Different how? Because she thought Thomas wasn't good enough. Was that it?
She hoped the chaos would be too much. She thought if Megan caused enough pain, you'd call it off.
She tried to sabotage my wedding, and you knew. You sat there while she planned it?
I am not proud of it. I pushed back a little, but she was relentless. I never thought she'd actually do it.
Rachel's chest tightened. This wasn't a single act of cruelty. It was a campaign, and her mother had used her own friend as a weapon. She didn't shout. She simply stood, the distance between them now permanent. The truth was out, and it was even uglier than she'd imagined. David didn't move. His voice came out cracked and thin, like it was scraping against something buried.
She told me electricians don't become son-in-laws. She said you were throwing yourself away on the help.
And Megan was just the messenger. The real message was that you both thought I was ruining my life.
I should have stopped her. I am not proud. I am just a coward who let it happen.
Rachel looked at the man who had once been her father, now just a small, defeated figure on a couch. Strangely, the truth didn't crush her. It settled into place like a bone clicking back into its socket.
So this was the secret. Not a misunderstanding, a deliberate plan to break me down, wrapped in a smile.
She stood, and the motion felt final. There were no more questions worth asking. David called her name, but the front door clicked shut before the sound could catch her. The night air was cold and clean, and Rachel finally breathed without a knot in her chest. She drove back to the hotel, where Thomas was waiting, sitting on the edge of the bed. He didn't ask. He just watched her face.
She told him everything. The class contempt. The planned sabotage. Megan as a tool.
We don't need her. We never did.
I know. I just needed to hear the whole truth before I could let go.
He pulled her close. The weight between them shifted, becoming something shared.
Our family is us. And Catherine. And Dad, if he can stand on his own.
Then that's enough. More than enough.
Rachel felt the final thread to her mother loosen. Not cut, loosen, because she knew it might one day tug again. She texted David, "I need space. Not forever, but now. I love you." Then she turned off her phone. In the silence of the hotel room, Rachel and Thomas held on. The battle wasn't over, but they had chosen their side. 6 months after the wedding, Rachel and Thomas stood in the doorway of their own house, a fixer-upper with good bones and terrible wallpaper.
Thomas, I think the wallpaper is literally older than us.
Well, your mother would call it character, if we could afford better.
Rachel laughed, but the sound landed somewhere soft and bruised. She was learning not to let those jabs define her. On Tuesdays, she drove to a therapist's office and talked until the tightness in her chest unwound, just a little.
It wasn't forgiveness. It was just letting go of the need for an apology I'd never get.
They painted every room themselves, choosing colors neither family had ever lived in. The master bedroom became a quiet, pale blue.
You know, I always wanted a house with crooked shelves. Makes it feel lived in.
I think I am starting to believe we deserve this. No ghosts.
The mantel stood bare, waiting. One day, she'd put a photo there, but only of the people who had earned the right. One ordinary Tuesday, Rachel was measuring a countertop when her phone lit up. The screen read, "Mom." She hadn't seen that name on her screen in 6 months. Her finger hovered over the green button, steadying.
Rachel answered flatly. Hello.
Rachel, I was hoping you'd pick up. I'd like to see your home, see where you live now.
Her voice was careful, stripped of its old authority. It almost sounded like a plea.
Rachel's mind flicked to every script she'd run in therapy. The woman who tried to ruin my wedding wants to come for tea.
I won't stay long. I'd like to see that you are okay.
Rachel's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice even. The old Linda didn't ask, she announced. This was different, and it unsettled her more.
I'll think about it. For now, that's the best I can do.
She ended the call before Linda could push. The kitchen felt smaller, as if the past had just taken a seat at the table. That evening, Thomas sat in the armchair while Rachel paced, rehearsing the possibilities.
You don't owe her a thing. Not after what she put us through.
I need to know if I can face her without shrinking. That's for me, not her.
Catherine arrived without being asked, pulling Rachel into a firm hug.
I'll be there. The whole time. She's not getting you alone.
Thank you for always showing up. I couldn't do this without you.
We do this on our terms. I'll be right in the garage, one word and she's out.
Rachel yelled, watching the phone as if it might bite.
1 afternoon, 2 hours. Catherine will be here. No Megan, no apologies, just a visit.
Linda's silence was all the agreement they got. Rachel hung up and looked at the two people who had never left her. Rachel stood in the living room, adjusting the new wedding photo on the mantel. She angled it so it faced the sofa.
She needed Linda to see it, the family she'd almost destroyed.
Catherine settled into an armchair, her presence a quiet fortress. She didn't speak, but her eyes held a promise. On the coffee table, 2 teacups waited. Steam rose into the still air, delicate and temporary. Then the doorbell broke the silence. Rachel's breath hitched just once before she steadied herself. She opened the door. Linda stood in a pressed dress, hands clutching her purse.
Hello, Rachel. Thank you for having me.
Come in. Catherine's already here.
Linda's eyes flickered toward the living room, where Catherine sat watching, unblinking, unapologetic. She stepped inside, the door clicking shut behind her like a final note. Rachel led Linda into the living room, where Catherine sat like a quiet sentinel near the window.
Lovely drapes. You have good light in here.
Thanks. Catherine helped pick them. She has an eye for that.
Catherine didn't smile, but her gaze met Rachel's for a beat, an anchor in the rising tide.
And the coffee table, is that oak? David always liked oak.
We found it at a flea market. Thomas sanded it down himself.
Linda's smile tightened. The mention of Thomas's work was a needle. Tiny, but precise.
I hope the traffic wasn't too bad. The bypass can be a nightmare at noon.
I wouldn't know. I rarely drive that way anymore.
The silence that followed was heavier than any question. Catherine's chin lifted almost imperceptibly.
Does David come around?
He does. Every Sunday, actually. He says the light here reminds him of the old house.
Linda's cup paused halfway to her lips. The mention of the old house landed like a pebble in a still pond.
He's in that photo, actually. The one on the mantel.
Linda's eyes dragged to the mantel, her breath catching somewhere deep in her chest. The frame contained just 4 people: Rachel, Thomas, Catherine, and David, the family she'd cut herself out of. Rachel didn't flinch, didn't offer comfort. She let the silence stretch. Linda's face went unreadable. Not anger, not sadness, but something suspended in between. Catherine's eyes never left the scene, cataloging every tremor. For a full 10 seconds, Linda didn't blink. The teacup sat forgotten, cooling against her knee. The silence stretched until it felt brittle. Then Linda's hand moved, trembling slightly, to set her cup on the table. With a small, precise click.
I should go. Traffic will be heavy.
All right.
Catherine shifted in her chair, the creak loud in the hush. She didn't stand. Her eyes, steady as stone, never left Linda's face. Linda rose from the sofa, smoothing the front of her dress in a motion that was more about performance than necessity. Rachel walked her to the door, as if escorting a stranger out of a business meeting. Professional, distant, utterly composed. At the threshold, Linda paused. For a fraction of a moment, her lips parted as if to speak.
There's no traffic, really. I just...
Goodbye, Mom.
The door swung open, light flooding in. Linda stepped through, without a backward glance. Rachel closed the door behind her, the lock clicking with a finality that required no further explanation. Rachel stayed at the door, watching through the glass as Linda crossed the lawn with slow, deliberate steps. The car door opened, then shut. Linda sat behind the wheel for a moment, her face unreadable through the windshield. Then the engine turned over, and the car pulled away, vanishing around the corner. Rachel exhaled, a long breath that carried weight she'd been holding for months.
It's done. Not a victory. Just done.
From the living room, Catherine's voice came softly. You okay?
Yeah, I think I am.
And she was. The quiet, After the doorbell didn't feel hollow, it felt like clean air. Catherine didn't press. She just stood up and straightened her shirt, ready for whatever came next. Rachel glanced at the photo on the mantel one last time before walking back to the kitchen. She didn't need to say anything else. In the kitchen, Rachel filled the kettle. The sound of running water was the only thing that dared break the silence. Catherine leaned against the counter, arms folded, watching her with a steadiness that didn't need words.
This is what real family looks like. No games.
After a minute, she dried her hands and walked back into the living room, her steps slow and deliberate. At the mantel, she reached out and touched the frame, her fingers tracing the edge with a tenderness that had once been missing. The photo hadn't changed, but now it felt heavier, not with loss, but with certainty.
I am still proud of you, you know.
I know, and I am proud of us.
They didn't need to say more. The living room felt warm, filled with the quiet hum of belonging. Outside, the afternoon sun was beginning its slow descent, but inside, everything stayed steady. By evening, the kitchen smelled of rosemary and garlic. Thomas walked in, carrying a casserole dish with exaggerated ceremony.
You are both going to pretend this came from a recipe, not a desperate Google search.
Please. Rachel once tried to bake cookies and set off the fire alarm.
That was one time, and the alarm was overly sensitive.
Laughter spilled across the table, the kind that doesn't need a punchline, just relief. The wedding photo on the mantel caught the lamplight, the four faces inside glowing quietly.
That picture should be a postcard for doing things your own way.
Or a warning label, proceed with love, regardless of other people's seating charts.
Rachel leaned back, her wine glass catching the light. The evening was simple, ordinary, and entirely theirs. Outside, dusk settled over the house, but the windows glowed warm, a picture no frame could hold. The house grew still, dishes dried on the rack, and the last lamp in the living room burned low. The mantel held only one thing now, a single frame, its glass catching the golden light. Rachel, Thomas, Catherine, David, all of them facing forward, no one missing. The empty space beside it was no longer an absence. It was room for a life Linda had never understood. Rachel had not won a fight. She had chosen a family, and the photo was proof that the choice had held. The image blurred slightly as the camera drew closer, until only the light remained. Then even that softened into a quiet amber, and the screen faded to black. No music, no voiceover, just silence and the memory of what had been built inside that frame. And then, finally, nothing more.